Innovation management, the visual method for agile decision-making. You've surely experienced this frustration before. An innovation meeting where everyone is talking and you feel there are good things, good ideas capable of making a difference for your customers. But in the end, confusion reigns. You leave without any clarity, without any real decision, and everyone goes back to their business. Just noise and a bit of discouragement. What you are experiencing here is not a figment of the imagination. It's a structural problem of framing and implementing the way we think about and manage information. That is what I am going to show you in this video. How to transform this perceived and very real chaos into a system of clarification and decision-making that works. Without extra work, but by revealing and orchestrating the determining factors of projects, whether visible or hidden. Why does linear management fail in the face of innovation? The source of this problem is as simple as it is insidious. We are orchestrating innovation with tools designed for management and administration. Lists and linear reports where information follows a single thread, a line from point A to point B, then to point C, a mechanistic view, connections disappear, ideas are fragmented and frozen. You see isolated pieces, but certainly not the whole puzzle, not even the outer edge of that puzzle. Imagine the following scenario. You decide to adjust your market positioning. You need to address at least these four things simultaneously. The lessons you have already learned, the competitor's market strategy, 3, the internal resources at your disposal, and 4, the timeline for this project. So, in your linear document, you've already listed all of this. But how do these elements influence one another? What are these hidden interdependencies? Are they invisible on your page? How do you get a big picture and navigate layer by layer within this? That is to say, by context, by degree of influence or difficulty, by level of risk or opportunity. That is the first pitfall. Without the right practices, the actual complexity of projects becomes too dense, too heavy to bear. This leads to giving up. And even if you instinctively feel that everything is interconnected, how do you adapt your approach to designing, documenting, and communicating about this whole to better engage your stakeholders? You then feel the weight of these silos that isolate rather than bring people together as you would wish. There is a cost here that few managers appreciate. In the mind mapping decision coaching sessions, I have observed this: a 25% increase in stress felt by managers simply because they lack a method to gain a clear overview of the entire system. They manage deliverables, fragments, just as managers do, often paralyzed because they risk forgetting. And there is a second blow that is even more silent. Your teams are underutilized. Their talents remain invisible too, stuck precisely in these purely administrative tasks. Why? Because this linear structure will create a sort of hierarchy of thought, speech, and contribution. In other words, rank takes precedence over individual talents, and the project ends up becoming restricted, even though you are in the early stages of this project. This is where the traditional structure stifles creativity. It imposes a linear order instead of a naturally systemic process. Innovation isn't about A to B. It's a dance, a waltz, in which several forces play together and interact in feedback loops. For a long time, I used to think these situations were inevitable. And then I discovered that there is another way of doing things. Creative and visual management is based on 3 successive frameworks. I'll explain them to you now. Creative management is visual, but I should actually say visual and creative in this case. This is the approach proposed by mind mapping decision. First step, strategic framing, which involves seeing the overall intention. First, you must define and visualize the core of the project, not the details, not the periphery, the real intention, the stakes, the issues, involving all stakeholders. I am convinced that this is where the best chances of the project's success lie. That's what changes the mapping itself. Start with an empty center. It may seem strange, but it's fundamental. This empty center forces you to clear your mind before innovating. You must clear the way first. You must precisely identify what you are really looking for, what you value most, and do the same with your partners. Take a concrete example. You are working on market positioning. Instead of listing competitors in a spreadsheet in a column, You could visualize the forces at play with their relative positions and varying degrees of centrality and influence, as well as opportunities, threats, all of this being visually linked. You are the system, and your brain sees connections that text alone hides from you. Mind mapping decision suggests you start with a skeleton mind map of the minimum viable ecosystem type. You and your team build this initial framework together in an hour, no more. From this simple structure, you begin to decode, and a form of alignment emerges naturally. You establish the project's universe, the environment in which it will develop, the soil in which it will grow. Everyone gains a better understanding of the real factors driving this project, rather than just these outward manifestations. And soon, spaces will open up and contributions will be able to emerge. Second framework, a systemic framework. You connect the points that have been made visible, what the Anglo-Saxons call connecting the dots. This is where the branches and nodes of the mind map become so powerful. Each branch fits into a context and links an idea to a hypothesis, a scenario to a constraint, an opportunity to a resource. You reason in pairs or triads, and you then create bolder combinations. Each node is a crossroads with options. The linear text hides all that from you. The map, on the contrary, reveals it. Talent begins here. That is to say, with this boldness of composition that your competitors lack. So make this minimum viable ecosystem map your base camp for devising the project's strategic development plan. Its resources, its timeline, its internal and external skills, everything is visually organized within this framework. You can then see what depends on what is holding things back and what is speeding things up. You are the system. You are at the heart of the system, and that is crucial. The color and spatial structure of the map activate several areas of your brain simultaneously. You see the connections you would have missed in a purely textual reading. But the real gift, ultimately, of this systemic framework? Here it is. The map reveals hidden talents. It gives every member of your team, a space to contribute without that hierarchy of speech. It's the ideas that count, not just the rank. There's the one who understands resources better, the one who sees the market's impact straight away, the one who dares to propose the improbable, and everyone can contribute on an equal footing. Mind mapping decision has thus enabled teams that managers believe to be stuck to regain that clarity in just a few hours, and it doesn't take several weeks to do so. Third step, narrative framing to turn the map into action. Once your map has been constructed in this way, it becomes the guiding thread, and you accept that it transforms, because it is this system of representation that you have co-constructed. Each branch becomes more than just a simple task. It is a mission imbued with purpose, each with their own autonomy and confidence. You can finally delegate because every team member knows their place within the whole, and that makes all the difference to motivation. Teams then feel that they have more influence in decision-making and that their contribution counts for more. I estimate a 30 to 35% increase in confidence simply because people see the work context and the territory in which they operate and feel fully at home within it. Mind mapping tools. Mind Manager facilitates these transitions and this final consolidation of the initial map, from creative scoping to operational management. Milestones, assignments, dependencies, and the link to the other building blocks of your information system. I emphasize this very often. Creativity doesn't disappear, it takes shape step by step. This is the method using these three frameworks to design your complete project system. In the third part, you will experience three transformations using these in innovation projects. You might be asking, what difference does this really make to me and my team? Well, here are the three transformations you're going to go through. Firstly, instant clarity without any extra effort. You're not creating any extra work. You're structuring what already exists. What those confusing meetings take 2 or 3 sessions to do, mapping clarifies it in vain in 30 minutes. Weak signals begin to bring these important details to the fore, which textual lists and linear reasoning were stifling. That intuition you had but which remained unspoken, and often ended in frustration once back at the office. Well, suddenly, it takes shape. Second transformation, unlocking hidden talents. I've already told you about your team. The mind map forces everyone to express their vision. It's a sort of collective mirror. You discover who thinks in systems, who dares to combine opposing fields, who possesses creative courage. When people see the bigger picture, they make better decisions without asking your permission. Autonomy takes hold. More easily, you'll find time that you used to waste on micromanagement. Finally, the third level of transformation, greater agility and restored decision-making support. You are no longer a prisoner of, we've always done it this way. The map highlights what is changing, what is accelerating or hindering adaptation. And because everyone sees the same challenges, you can steer more quickly and more collectively. Mind mapping decision guides you through these stages of scoping and successive transformations in order to achieve that same clarity you're seeking. So your next steps towards greater creativity and innovation are guided in this way. Mind mapping, which clarifies your thinking, reveals your talents and speeds up your decision-making. It's not just another tool. It's not a tool just for show. It's a way of thinking that will be a game changer within projects, within your strategic project portfolio. And to really start putting it into practice, Mind Mapping Decision offers a workshop with you and your team. This is where you can move from, I understand the theory, to I'll be doing this tomorrow, starting next Monday. This is how clarity can become a source of performance. So I invite you to join a Wednesday mapping workshop on decision mind mapping. The link is in the description. You'll witness this transformation live, and I've got things to show you. Ultimately, your team is simply waiting for a better way to decide with you, together, by rebuilding this future together. See you soon. Goodbye.